beginning our 118th meeting of the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage. We are continuing our study today of the remuneration models for artists and creative industries. We have a couple of things we have to begin with at the top, and I apologize for our late beginning because we did have votes. We have one more vote that we must do in committee before we can get started, which is for the election of our vice chair. Monsieur le greffier, est-ce que...
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk.
The vice chair, first vice chair, must be a member of the official opposition party. I'm now prepared to receive a motion for the first vice chair.
Please. I would move. Mr. Blaney?
Moved by Mr. Shields that Mr. Stephen Blaney take the first vice chair. All in favor? All opposed? None? Yeah, I can confirm Mr. Blaney duly elected the first vice chair.
Merci beaucoup.
Excellent.
Merci beaucoup. Ce matin.
All right. So we have with us today two witnesses. To begin, we have Brian Adams with us in person, and thank you for coming. And we have with us from Vanderbilt University Law School, Daniel J. Gervais, who is with us by video conferencing. So why don't we begin with you, Mr. Adams, if you can begin with your presentation for us.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. Thank you for having me today. It's very kind. I've invited Daniel along because Daniel is an expert in copyright law. I've got a proposal to make to the Canadian government on an amendment of the Copyright Act. I've been trying for the past 10 years to get a moment to have this like this to be able to tell you about it, and it's quite a simple proposal. It's about, and I'll get into it by just going through the PowerPoint I've got here for you. So, proposal for amendment of Copyright Act S.14, and how would you say brackets 1? Okay, so the current copyright law, authors and composers who transferred or assigned their copyrights by contract must wait 25 years after death to get them back. That's what it is. So if you write a script, or you write a book, or you write a song, and you assign your copyright to a company, you have to wait 25 years after you die to get it back. I can say it again, but I think twice is enough. In comparison, the current USA copyright law was changed in January 1978, and they decided, the U.S. government decided that copyright should revert back to the author and composer upon request 35 years after assignment. So after you've given it to a company, or you've made a deal for your book or your song, 35 years later, it returns to you, and you can decide whether you want to continue with that company or keep it for yourself. So my proposal is that we change one word in the Copyright Act, Section 14.1, which is from 25 years after death to 25 years after assignment. So one word, that's all we need to do. And that ways we get into the final part of my presentation, which is the reasons for change. Before I do that, should we ask Mr. Gervais to have any comments, or should I continue my proposal?
It is up to you how you'd like to do it. You can go through your entire presentation if you'd like, and have Mr. Gervais present after you, or if you'd like to go back and forth, you can do it that way as well.
Well, at this point, maybe I'll let Mr. Gervais come in, and then we can go in through the reasons for change. But I'll give you the floor,
I had
Daniel.
prepared well, thank you, Brian. I had prepared a presentation. So would it be? I can give the presentation now, or
Yeah,
wait
just
until-
To try and increase sound. You also have earpieces. You should have an earpiece
I was
right
looking.
beside you.
Oh, this one, yeah.
And if you take it, it will go to, if you put it to floor, or you can switch it for translation services if you need it.
This is for translation or just for here?
It'll amplify floor as well. Floor is just
Got it. Daniel, you there?
I am.
Okay, there we are.
There you go. That's better. All right. So now we can all hear you a little bit better. So if you would like to jump in.
I had prepared opening remarks, which I sent to the clerk. Should I proceed with those at this time? Or
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable members of the Standing Committee, I thank you for the invitation to testify today. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there in person. As you very well know, copyright policy is a very difficult balancing act, or perhaps I should say a series of balancing acts between, for example, creators and those to whom they entrust the commercial exploitation of their work. Other balancing acts are those between, for example, those commercial exploiters and the public, between major online intermediaries and copyright owners, between educators and copyright owners, librarians and copyright owners. So there's a long list, but today I really want to focus on what Brian just mentioned, which is the balance between creators and those to whom they entrust the exploitation, the commercial use of their work. Copyright is meant to encourage both new creators to try to make a living by creating new art, and more established creators to continue to produce the works that we all enjoy and from which we learn. Copyright is directly linked to many forms of human, literary, and artistic creation, and we all know how important that is in a society. Therefore, how policy affects the creation of new works of art and literature is crucial to both cultural and economic progress. One point I really want to emphasize is that it's true that some quality contributions to human progress are created by amateurs, people who don't create for a living, but that is not the rule. Talent, however you define this term, has not been distributed evenly. It is true that even abundant talent needs time to be honed, nurtured, and developed. One example I like to give is Mozart, who started composing as a child, did not really write anything we still listen to two and a half centuries later until he was 21. The nurturing of talent over decades is a very important function that copyright policy can accomplish. I, for one, will take Denis Arcand, James Cameron, or Denis Villeneuve any day before even the cutest video posted to YouTube, if I can put it that way. There is a strong cultural argument in support of creators, but of course a sheer economic argument as well. In this knowledge economy, creativity is replacing the production of material goods. Therefore, as a matter of both human and economic development, policy should ensure that those who can and will push their creative limits, including in developing new art and knowledge, can do so. Which takes me directly to this topic of Section 14. A key feature of copyright rights is they are transferable, except for the moral right, of course. Transferability is meant to allow authors to work with commercial intermediaries, from film production companies to record labels, book and music publishers, and so on. Those companies market the work of authors and allow authors to monetize their talent and their craft, and in doing so, to make a living and to continue creating. This is often the key mechanism that allows authors to be authors, to have the time to dedicate to this unique function that is so important to human cultural and intellectual progress. The ability to transfer and license third parties is essential to the copyright system in Canada and elsewhere in the world. To take just one simple example, novelists and essayists who want their books published by a publisher must be able to give these publishers some sort of exclusive right. Almost all transfers of copyright happen on the basis of an open contractual relationship and negotiation. This means that the parties bargain from their respective positions, and their clout will vary according to a variety of factors. To take an example again, if you're an unknown author publishing your first novel and working with a major publisher, you probably consider yourself very lucky and will just sign anything that's put in front of you. It is also true that in most cases, it's very difficult to predict the commercial success of a new work. Countless novels, for example, were rejected by publishers. Marcel Proust, Rudyard Kipling, Louisa May Alcott, and so many others were all told they had no chance to make it as writers. Yet their works have been read by millions and are still widely read today. Many great songs were rejected by music publishers and became major hits. This means that there's undoubtedly a risk in investing to develop new authors and in writing and in producing new works from established ones. The question that is raised by Brian and me today is how long is the reasonable period of commercial exploitation that is necessary to allow a publisher or producer to recoup investment and make a profit? Many national laws around the world recognize that letting an assignee keep copyright for its entire duration makes very little sense. Even the United States, as Brian mentioned, which is not the most author-friendly jurisdiction in the world, has adopted a reversion provision in its 1976 Copyright Act. And if I can read one sentence from the report that the US Congress report on this new act contains, it says, quote, "A provision of this sort, a reversion provision, is needed because of the unequal bargaining position of authors, resulting in part from the impossibility of determining a work's value until it has been exploited. And under US law, this right cannot be waived in advance or traded away." Whichever method is chosen by the legislator, the law must recognize the unequal bargaining position of authors and its unfairness. And allowing the rights to revert to the author after a reasonable period of time is a very powerful way to limit this unfairness. Other countries have opted to limit the contractual ability to transfer rights, especially to future works. That's probably because they assume that an author would only agree to such a transfer if she has no choice due to her unequal bargaining position. This is the case, for example, in Belgium, France, and Spain, to name just three. Germany goes further. Germany provides authors a right to revoke an authorization given to a publisher if a new form of exploitation appears. And over the decades that follow a transfer of copyright, this situation is almost certain to arise. The Canadian Act, like the 1911 UK Act from which the original Canadian statute is derived, provides reversion, but in most cases, the provision is essentially meaningless. The author must comply, as Brian explained, with a difficult condition to exercise this right. Namely, he or she must die first and then wait 25 years. There are many rebalancing efforts that could happen in copyright, but I respectfully submit that it is time to rebalance this relationship between authors and those who exploit their works by contract. The US requires a 35-year period. Canada could, in my respectful submission, do better and institute a 25-year reversionary interest. There are a number of administrative requirements in US law which need not be adopted in Canada. There are only three important conditions for reversion that should be adopted, again, in my submission today. The first is that the reversion should happen only on request of the author. Second, that the assignee be given sufficient advance notice of the author's intention. And third, that a public notice be made available, and that is perhaps a function that could be entrusted to the Copyright Board of Canada, for example. So those were my introductory remarks. I'm at the committee's disposal to answer any questions, of course, including, of course, about any other aspects of authors' remuneration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And did you have something to add then after that?
Yeah, we have the last page of our proposal, which is, as Daniel has said, 25 years is plenty of time for copyright to be exploited by an assignee. The second point was author and composer can see a further potential financial benefit of their work in their lifetime and reinvest in new creation. And this is what would happen by having reversion. It's an incentive. This is the single, probably the most efficient subsidy to Canadian creators at no additional cost to taxpayers at all. And as I don't know if we need to get into it right at this point, but the U.S. industry is benefiting from additional advantages compared to Canada. I mean, I'm talking about authors and composers and songwriters are benefiting from the fact that they are getting their copyrights back earlier than Canadians are. So that wraps my presentation up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm at your disposal.
Wonderful. Alors, merci beaucoup pour ça. Maintenant,
Thank you very much. And now we will start our question and answer period. If you need simultaneous interpretation, please use the earpieces because we have MPs who will be asking questions in French and others will be asking in English. So please use them if needed. And we will be starting for 7 minutes with Mr. Breton, please. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And it is a pleasure, obviously, to have you here with our committee today. Thank you to our two panelists for joining us today. Mr. Adams, particularly, thank you for joining us. We're very honored to welcome you to our table. Congratulations on your career and your 40 years of success. Obviously, 14 albums and 70 million albums sold around the world. It's positively impressive. A number of Academy Awards nominations and other awards. That is a real feather in Canada's hat. Obviously, the music industry has evolved a great deal in recent years. Can you please tell us a little bit about this evolution since the beginning of your career 40 years ago, and particularly concerning remuneration of artists? You mentioned a couple of suggestions for improvements. Do you have other suggestions in mind that you could also propose to us? Thank you.
Nothing. Sorry.
pause here.
I'd like to propose that I get my guy to come in and help you guys get this audio equipment worked out.
Might be helpful.
Nothing. I got. If you want to quickly.
Pierre, est-ce que vous pouvez
Oui.
faire un peu en anglais aussi?
Could you please also just test in English as well? Testing, testing. Is it working now, Mr. Adams? Yes, thank you. My question is concerning the evolution of the music industry. How have things evolved in the last 40 years since the beginning of your career? Particularly concerning remuneration of artists. Do you have any other suggestions to make to the committee beyond the one that you presented earlier concerning Section 14 of the Act?
Giving you many suggestions on what to do for remuneration, particularly with the internet. But at this stage, I think this is a very big step. This would be a very big step in the right direction to help composers and authors in Canada to own and control their work and at least have the opportunity to decide if they want to or not going forward. And so the one point I wanted to make is that it's all right for someone like myself who's had a long career, as you described. I'm not really standing here today for myself as much as I am standing for the young artists of Canada that are coming forward and authors. So if a change did happen, it would affect me on some level, but certainly it would definitely benefit the younger generation more going forward. It's a bigger question. Your question's a very big question. You know, what could we do going forward to help? And it's another discussion. It really is.
Vous êtes un artiste international.
You're an international artist. Have you seen models elsewhere in the world that could be applicable here in Canada, and can you share them with us?
Obviously, the American one below us, as I described, and I think that it's a good starting point. And even that platform, it's as Daniel said, it's not the most author-friendly country, but at least it's better than what we have. And I mean, when I first discovered that this was in existence, I was a little bit puzzled. I couldn't understand why anyone would even want to create something that was so difficult for songwriters and composers and authors. Why would you want to limit their creativity on any level? You know, it's important that that everybody understands that in some cases, some people may only create one or two things in their lives. They might write Catcher in the Rye, and that's the only thing they ever do in their whole lives. But it's such an influential and powerful piece, influencing so many other people and other writers and inspiring people, that it's important that their control of it, is in their destiny eventually. And so, or at least it would be inspiring to think that it would come back to them. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, when you sign something over as a young writer, like myself, when I was 16 or 15, when I signed my first songs over to another publisher, I was just happy to pay my rent. That's it. People say to me, "What is the single most, exciting thing that ever happened in your career?" I can tell you, the day that I could pay my rent. I was grateful. I still am. So, yeah, I mean, I think it answers the question.
Merci.
Thank you. Yes. Now we will move on to Mr. Blaney. Thank you. Thank you for your confidence. Mr. Adams, I was 19 and I went to Oglacher Beach in Maine. And it was 1984, and it was the song "The Summer of '69" was very popular. Thank you for joining us today. Mr. Adams, you answered the question. You indicated that it's a way for us as Canadians to reinvest in our artists by giving them the property rights of their copyright back after 25 years. And I would like to know,
this involvement for you to be here. You mentioned the next generation. Qu'est-ce qui vous a dit ça n'a pas de bon sens au Canada?
what made you think things just aren't working in Canada? We need to evolve. Can you please explain your motivation for proposing this change today?
Fairness.
Mm-hmm.
Canada is seen around the world as this beacon of safety, and I think that we can do better. I've been working in this business for a long time, and I see how other countries behave and how they treat people. And I think the future really is, it's so difficult today for artists and songwriters to really get paid. Anything that can help them gain control of their work going forward, at least, and even if it was in harmony with other people, so that there was a way of that. It was symbiotic, that both publishers and artists were working together to move forward instead of just being one-sided. I think that it's, I think it's fair. I just think it's fair, and I don't think who would think up an idea that 25 years after you die, you get to own your house. I'm sorry, I just don't think that's fair.
Ouais. Et vous avez débuté votre carrière.
You started your career back then. Is it harder now with social media for younger artists to make a break? Back then you could sell CDs, and there were even cassettes, and today we have streaming, and there are digital platforms. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mr. Adams? Because we're going to have to focus on this as a committee as well.
It's a bigger question.
Yes.
As your colleague was talking about. I think that I'll be honest with you, it was never easy in the beginning for myself. It wasn't an easy thing to become recognized. As Daniel mentioned, many authors got kicked out of the door, and it happened to me here in Canada as well. I mean, people were just not interested, and it's an artist's legacy. You have to go back and, in fact, when I signed my first contract, it was for $1, because legally in Canada, to make a contract happen, you have to have $1. And after a couple of years, I said to the president of the record company, I said, I signed that contract for $1. You never sent it. He said, I'll send it. And I've got it on my wall. I've got the $1 check. I never cashed it. But I mean, that's what it comes down to. You sign for pittance in the beginning. And if you're lucky, and if you have a machine behind you, you can create a lot of interest and And yes, the social media is a very big aspect for artists these days, but there's no guarantees, and there's no guarantees in the long term how long you're going to be there. I've had a really blessed career, and I thank the Canadian public for that, because I've been able to continue to make music and be recognized in this country and around the world. So I'm grateful. But I'm one of the lucky. I'm one of the few. I'm one of the few, and so I'm here without asking any of my colleagues in the business to what their opinions are on this. I've come up here on my own to say I think we can do better in Canada.
Okay. Thank you. Une dernière question, peut-être, Monsieur.
One last question, perhaps for Mr. Gervais.
Yes, we know now that in the United States it's 35 years after the agreement. Do you have example of other country where whether we're lagging behind, or in Europe? What is copyright? Australia? Can you give us an overview of what's going on elsewhere?
Oui, si vous permettez, je fais.
If you would allow me, I will speak in English, because I know there are a lot of people listening in the United States and in Europe. So I think it would be better to answer in English, but you perhaps hear from my accent that I'm a Quebecer. Yes, the answer to your question, and the answer to Mr. Breton's question is that there have been a lot of changes because there are no mechanical rights for copyrights before they had CDs, and those were a very important source of remuneration because they were shared 50-50 between the author and the copier. And today that has completely disappeared compared to what it once was. There is online streaming, and there are two problems with streaming. First of all, the share that is given to the author is much less, and that's an important issue. One of the advantages in the collective management is that the government, through its copyright legislation, can intervene to make a bigger share for authors. There are a number of proposals around the world. The United Kingdom had the right to remuneration in its 1911 Act. Unfortunately, it was removed in 1956. In Europe, there are different mechanisms. They limit the power of an author to transfer his or her rights, and there are people who feel that it is an overly heavy intervention. But they feel that an author, as Brian said, at the beginning of their career will sign nearly anything. And so they say, we do not allow you to sign over any document. We don't allow you to sign any document that transfers this. So European countries, of the European continent in any way, limit the rights of an author to transfer his or her rights. And as I said in my speech, Germany goes much further. They give the author the right to get back their copyright in certain situations. So you need to recognize that an author at the beginning of their career finds themselves in a difficult situation. Thank you. We will continue with Mr. Nantel. You have 7 minutes, please. Thank you, Mr. Gervais and Mr. Adams, for joining us today. It's obviously fascinating for all members of this committee, and it really helps the work of our committee, because it is rare that we have a real McCoy who's had such an illustrious career, which highlights talent, and you've been able to market this, and this is great for artists, but many CD companies, one of which I was a member of, and I saw all of the clauses, the recoup clauses and the marketing fees on artists. It is a system that works more or less well, but if I've understood correctly, the album Cuts Like a Knife, which we all know, would be, under the current legislation, free. You could recover the rights and the master, and that's probably the main question. Are they the rights for the master recording, or is it the publishing agreement that would be freed up? Both. Okay. And so concerning the master, you could recover it and repurchase it. How does that happen exactly?
In America, for example, master recordings and songwriting, songs publishing is transferable at the request of the artist or the composer or after 35 years. So unless you request it, it maintains its life with the assignee, and that's as simple as that.
And so, because to me, I think most members here were here when Damned Doyle from Newfoundland came.
Excuse me 1 second. Daniel, would you say that's correct? Did I answer that correctly?
That the authors can get their copyright, any copyright transferred by the author, you can get back after 35 years. Yes, the U.S.
Okay. And the publishing deal is the same issue, the same term.
Exactly the same.
And it doesn't go hand in hand. It has to be this way. I mean, the master is the owner of the ownership of the master is the recording company,
right?
Because he paid for the production. This is the famous. We've seen letters called MAPL on these record labels, and we see C and P. So we're talking about the C and the P here.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And so the issue here is that since I spoke about the MAPL, I'm not out of your career. I'll just ask you, when you got signed in the very beginning, I guess 88 or something like that, you got signed to before that?
78.
Oh, really? That's true. You're right. So yeah, because Cosmic Knife is 83. So you're right.
Very
so
good.
78. So if at the time you got signed, are you under the impression that the MAPL system, the rules we had for radio, was helping you to get signed by a major label?
I don't know if I benefited from the signing aspect, because literally there was a boot mark, kicking me out most of the studios and record companies at the time. But I will say that I think it's probably helped. I mean, in the way that France has a percentage of music that has to be played that's, French content. I think the same thing has helped Canadian artists, without a doubt, here in Canada by having a regulatory system where the mandatory system where you play Canadian music. Otherwise, we'd just be playing what the hits are, south of the border, and we would never have recognized Canadian talent. So I think it's been helpful.
And the words you just used are describing, I was tracking on radio. That was my job, to call the musical directors and play my song. So I understand clearly what you're talking about now. But the reality is that the market has changed so much. So since most people are on streaming, that's what all the papers who talk about music talk about, the fact that Spotify remains the biggest one. Would you think that there is something we should do to cut some place for Canadian artists in this environment?
I think so, but again, it's another question.
I absolutely agree with you.
There's so many different parts of this rainbow. I mean,
Agreed.
I've just come here just to focus on what I think would be the simplest change at this point to help authors and composers. But there's a much bigger problem with how to help artists and composers beyond this. And you've just highlighted a couple of those points.
Because I think that one of the most touching moments we had here is when it's very important that real McCoys come to tell us what is your reality. Your reality sure is not that you've been suffering from exploitation. You had a wonderful career and you're thankful for that, and then we all appreciated it. But persons like Damned Doyle from Newfoundland, remember the fiddler?
Yeah.
She came here and was telling us that there's no way that she can actually have a middle class income to pay for the classes and stuff in such a situation, and getting access to her master tape, to the recording of her album, so that she, when the contract ends, not after her death, like you say, would surely help her to remarket and make new deals.
Right.
So I thank you a lot for that. And since everyone since Mr. Gervais said that many people were listening to this in the States, I have to tell you that I'm still wondering if there's something that we can do to help our artists, our cultural diversity, since obviously the record labels and publishing houses have made bizarre agreements with these streaming services, giving you something like 3,000 of a cent per stream for one of your songs.
Yeah.
So I hope that you coming here brings a lot of focus to the study that we are into, and I thank you for the angle you bring in.
Thank you.
And I wish for you that the next album, what's the next album to be freed from this for you?
Well, I'm not here to promote myself, but now that you mention it, it'll be in January.
So good luck with that, and let's hope that the next time will be 10 years earlier.
Thank you.
All right. And on that note, we will be going to Mr. Long, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Gervais and Mr. Adams, for coming today to give us your presentation. Mr. Adams, congratulations on your wonderful, beautiful music career and the beautiful music that you provide us with.
Thank you.
Let me indulge, I'll still say you were the best rock concert I've ever seen. I'm from St. John, New Brunswick, and you played at Harbor Station in 2005. You came back with an acoustic tour a few years ago.
Oh, wow, thank you.
But the concert you gave in 2005 still gives me shivers. My background is major junior hockey. I was part owner of the St. John Sea Dogs major junior hockey team, and certainly I've dealt for years with agents and players and negotiations and whatnot. And I guess my question to you, and you've kind of answered around it a little bit, but good negotiation always comes with leverage on both sides. You know, both sides of the party need a little bit of leverage to have a good negotiation. And one thing I've certainly seen with artists in music, and forgive me, I'm new to the committee, so I've missed a lot of the previous testimony. But, you know, I grew up listening to music like Stampeders, Edward Bear, Lighthouse, Chilliwack, you know, artists like that. Those artists and new artists have no leverage. You mentioned in your testimony, too, you were just happy to sign a deal to pay your rent. So, kind of a two-pronged question, but structurally, just name me a couple things that we can do as government to help give new artists more leverage. What can we do?
Boy, oh boy. I don't know if I can answer that question because it's such an individual thing. I mean, each artist is so unique, and each situation is unique. I don't know.
Fair, but there must be a couple things though that we could do to help artists just at a higher level to have a little more leverage when they're doing these
But leverage
deals.
with who, though?
With the people that they're signing the copyright with. Like you yourself said, you're happy to sign it to pay your rent.
Yeah, but I mean that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the fact that most people, you know, if you're a young artist, you probably worked for a few years trying to get somewhere, and suddenly someone says, you know what, I think we can make something out of this. You sign here, and we'll see what we can do. And sometimes you get lucky,
Right.
but it's not a guarantee. There's no guarantee that just because you sign a deal with somebody that you're going to be a hit.
Okay.
There's a lot more
Yeah, for
factors
sure.
involved, you know.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that people said to me when I would walk in was like, you know, do you have a band? No. Do you have a manager? No. Well, get on your bike. You know, there wasn't. You have to have all the components in the beginning, and it's never like. I mean, look, I was really lucky. I signed when I was 18. I went on to have a couple of albums that were duds. My record company supported me through the duds, and then we had a hit record, okay? Nowadays, with artists, if you don't come with your best foot forward, you're pretty much toast.
Right.
And that's why a lot of artists go to hit-making machinery, but they go to people that are you know, songwriters, other teams, other producers to try and make their records so that they do have their best foot forward when they come out. But it doesn't necessarily make for an individual's artistic stamp. You know, it takes time to develop things. And so, you know, you have to be grateful for the opportunity in the beginning that you can pay your rent, that you can get to the point where you are, you know, in control of what you're doing. But at that point, you need to be able to take over and let your artistry do the talking.
Okay.
And that's what happened to me. You know, I mean,
Right.
once I figured out what I was doing, it was like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I've done the University of Rock. I've played every club in this country. You know, which by the way, a lot of the clubs don't even exist anymore.
Right.
So, you know, how do young artists even go out and get their music played? They think that by going to the internet that it's going to make a difference, but it doesn't guarantee anything. No one does. How are you even going to find this person?
Right.
You know, there's a lot of factors involved in getting to that point.
Okay.
You know, but in the end, the most crucial thing is having that talent, having the song. You know, and it's an elusive thing. It doesn't happen every day.
Right.
And it doesn't happen to everyone.
Right. Thank you for that. Another question, just out of curiosity, and again, I'm new to the committee. I know, you know, you have here right in front of me, 25 years is enough time for copyright to be exploited by a signee. My question is, why not 20?
Why not 10?
Yeah, so where's that sweet spot? Like, why are you settling on 25? I'm just curious.
I'm not actually settling on 25. I'd be happy if he went for 10. But, I mean, I think that, you know, if you look at the way things have been done in the past,
Yes.
if 35 years after death was fair up until now, what's fair going forward? The paradigm has changed so much. Should we not reconsider in a fairer way to artists, and hence my appearance today? And I agree with you that it doesn't have to be 25 years. It could be less.
So is there a movement out there to go less? Like, is there more artists that are saying, no, 25?
I've never discussed this with any other artists,
Okay.
or my colleague Jim Valance and I have discussed it, but I'm not sure. This is perhaps where Daniel could step in and have a voice about this. Daniel?
Well, there are very few
Sorry, I'm
countries
just going to jump in to warn you that you have about a half a minute, and maybe somebody else will pick that up.
Speak fast.
Yeah, there are very few countries that have reversion, so there are really very few precedents. But the question is exactly your question: where's the sweet spot? And if you go too low, then you will get pushback saying it's not enough. And it really comes down to a compromise. And so there is no perfect. It's like the term of a copyright or a patent. There's no perfect answer. You pick a number that seems to be in the right sweet spot, and 25 is. I think a good number. It could be 20, it could be 30. It's somewhere in that range, I would argue.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. On that note, we will be going to Mr. Yerdiga, please.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to our committee. It's the first time for me, too, so I'm very excited to have you here. You know, we're talking about changing some of the wording in the document, you know, copyright, from after death to after, what do you call it, assignment. So is there any pushback from the publishers? I mean, obviously, their medium is vast. A lot of internet providers are providing, you know, songs and that are illegally obtained. So there's not. So the publishers needs to be protected in some manner. Do you think the publishers will push back really hard if we say 20 years? What's the magic number where they'll be happy, in your opinion?
I'm pretty sure that if you spoke to any publisher, they would be quite happy to leave it the way it is. You know, they don't. Why would anybody want to relinquish control to somebody else? In a publisher's world, they would want to amass as much as possible for as long as possible so that they can sell their company for as much as possible. But the question I'm here only to ask everybody is that fair? You know, is that fair to the people that are... Publishers don't create work. They don't create composition. They don't create books. They're just literally the medium to help push it out there. And I have my doubts whether they're as effectual as they were, you know, 20 years ago. The internet has changed that so much. I'm not even sure. They're probably facing the same dilemma that everybody else is. You know, how are we going to go forward? But I would argue they would probably want it to be as high as possible. Judging from the experiences I've had with publishers.
Thank you. You know, in the business world, you know, even in agriculture, it's usually a 20-year number that the return on your investment.
Right.
And, in other industries, although, depending what it is, but usually, the only time we see a 25-year thing is in mortgages. So I think that number is high for me personally. I don't. It just seems
Well,
25
actually,
years
the
after
house,
death.
the idea of a house is actually a good parallel, I think, because it's something you build upon, and copyrights and ownership of copyrights is something you would build upon as an artist, in your own catalog of things. So I think your analogy is quite good.
So my next question is to Mr. Jarvis. Did I say it correctly?
Gervais.
Gervais? Okay. From your perspective, do you believe this will make a big difference, changing 25 years after death? What does it really mean to the artist? What will they get in return? It's already been published. It's out there. So what does getting the copyright mean to them? What's the advantage?
Thank you, Mr. Yurika. That's a fantastic question, because what happens to a copyright that is transferred to an extremely long period of time, like the current system in Canada, is that the publisher very often will see these as back catalog works that just keep producing a little bit of revenue every year, which they add to their other revenue. If an artist gets the rights back, they have a huge incentive to market and release, do new things with the work that they produced 25 years ago or 20 years ago. And one fact that we see in the US is even foreign authors can get their rights back in the US, it's mostly US authors who are using the system because they're more familiar with their own. So I think in Canada, what would happen is you would see many Canadian artists getting their rights back and then pushing more Canadian content, more Canadian music, more Canadian other types of copyright material. And so the incentive proposition is completely different from a publisher who owns this older back catalog that they have really very little incentive in some cases to use at all. And an artist who gets rights back and says, now I have a chance to make it again with this really, this good content that I produced a long time ago. So I think it's a win-win. And as Mr. Adams said, there's no cost to the taxpayer, which I think is also useful.
Well, thank you.
Okay, and we will now be going to Ms. Dillon, please.
Thank you for coming and testifying before the committee, Mr. Adams. It's needless to say, but it's an honor to have you here. You're a Canadian icon. And I would like to ask you, what disadvantages have you or your peers seen with this 25 years after death and part of our copyright law? And if they were to change it to 25 years after assignment, what advantages would you or your peers see?
Well, I haven't died yet, so I don't know the advantage.
Or for those who have passed away, if you...
Well, I mean, for those that have passed away and they are actually getting them back, perhaps this would help their families, their children. That's one side of it, I suppose. Yeah, personally, I don't know that I've had. I mean, I'm just here because I think that I want to get there before I die. I'd like to see this happen before I die. So, so I think that answers the question.
Well, Mr. Gervais mentioned that one of the reasons to have copyright law is to also nurture creativity for those who aspire to become artists and for those who already are. How has this prevented you from being even more creative? What more could you have given to the music industry?
Well, I mean, I only have a small portion of my own, a small portion of my work is actually under this thing. I own most of my work and most of my tapes, and I own most of my masters and everything. So there's only a small contingent of work that affects me. But I think, let's say you're an artist that writes two things in your life, or writes the one book, and it does come back to you. At that point, you would be able to decide, do I want to stay with that publisher? Has he done the right thing for me? Do I want to remarket it in a different way? Do I want to bundle it with some new work? do I want to, suddenly it becomes yours, and do I want to sell it back to the publisher again? You know what? I have now an opportunity to sell my music for not for the $1 I signed for, but now I can sign it for $1,000, and I can, I have something else from my work that I did when I was young. So those are the things that happen.
Okay, so that is a huge disadvantage, I feel, because it's not just about the dollar amount, it's also about your limitation to your own creativity, your own creation, and we all evolve later on in life, and you could add so much more, and so I think this is a very distinct disadvantage, that you cannot give even more to the work and hone it as you would have liked to, and this is regrettable to wait after the death of somebody rather than after the assignment
Right.
of those rights. And I would also like to ask you, how would the royalties be affected, and is there any major effect on those as well?
Well, the way it would work is if you suddenly got your copyrights back, you would own 100% of it, or whatever percentage of the song or book that you wrote. Until that point, it's divided between the members of who the contract would have been with in the beginning. So you would go from one small portion to a whole portion. Instead of half the pie, you get all the pie.
Okay.
But again, you have the opportunity at that point to decide, I think they've done a great job for me. What if you're signed to somebody in a contract that you don't want to work with, they don't want to work with you? There's no opportunity in this law as it stands right now for you to say, you know what, in 1 year's time this is coming back, so let's be buddies and let's move forward, or I'm off. At this point they just go, got ya.
Yeah.
So it's not fair.
No, it stifles your creativity.
Yeah,
very
and
much
that
so.
can have a huge effect on people. I don't even want to start naming the names of people that have had their copyrights, whisked from underneath their feet from contracts that they've signed as youngsters. And I'm not going to say that, it happens in every walk of life, not just in music, but we've all had to make deals in our lives that, perhaps I wish I could have done that better. But to be tied to something for such a long period of time without any negotiation whatsoever, I think we can do better.
Yeah.
Good place to leave
Thank
it.
you.
That will bring us to the end of this hour, and I appreciate that you stuck around for a little bit. I'm sorry that we started
Thank you,
late.
Madam Chair. Thank
and certainly it's been fun to hear everybody's concert memories along the way. So thank you very much.
I've got a few concert memories. I'm just kidding.
I'm happy to hear them later too, but we're going to suspend briefly while we wait for our next group of
Thank you.
witnesses. Thanks. Yeah, but I can't ask from the chair. are reviewing Bill C-391, an act respecting a national strategy for the repatriation of Aboriginal cultural property. We have with us MP Bill Casey, who brought forward this bill, as well as Heather Stevens from the Millbrook Cultural and Heritage Center, and Joel Henderson, who I do not have on my list, but is with
Hey,
Mr.
Joel
Casey.
Henderson is my executive assistant and was instrumental in drafting the bill.
Perfect. All right.
To
Well,
put it
it's good to
mildly.
have all three of you here. So why don't you begin by doing your presentation? Are we starting with you, Mr. Casey, or with Ms. Stevens?
Thanks very much. Well, I think I'm going to start the presentation by telling you a little story about how it all unfolded, how I got involved. In 2017, I visited the Millbrook Cultural Heritage Center. The Millbrook First Nation is a small First Nation in my riding, but very progressive, and they have a wonderful cultural heritage center, of which Heather Stevens is the manager and curator. They have a lot of artifacts on display, and one of the artifacts was on display at this time. We were looking at. She was explaining the artifacts, showing them to me, and she showed me this. I passed this picture around to everybody, and this was in a glass case in its own display system, and I was admiring it. And Heather said, "Well, that's not the real one." I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "That's a replica. The real one's in Australia. We've been trying to get it back since the 90s." And we really have, because of different barriers, that we have not been able to repatriate it. And I thought that was not right. So I came back, and Joel and I checked to see if there's any legislation or any government program or policy that would help a small First Nation like Millbrook acquire their artifacts back we knew where they were. They were legally in Australia and everything, but in general, we wanted to find out if there was any way the government could help, and there was no way. So we decided to draft this private members bill, mostly just to give a voice to Indigenous peoples and know that there's a strategy on behalf of the government to help to get their artifacts back. We started it out that way with a very small goal of just adding a voice. That's the way I like to put it, to add a voice to Indigenous peoples. But the amazing thing was, when I tabled the motion at first reading, I spoke for 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I talked about the robe. I talked about it being in Australia, just to introduce the bill. 3 weeks later, the Australian embassy called and asked if the ambassador could come and see me, and I said, of course. I didn't connect it. I just thought that she was doing her job and making good connections. And when she came in, she sat down, we talked for a little while, and all of a sudden she said, "I've been in touch with the Melbourne Museum where the robe is, and they're prepared to begin negotiations to repatriate that robe." I was floored. I couldn't believe it. But for all of us, 2 minutes and 37 seconds in the House was better than 30 years of trying on behalf of Indigenous people. It was a profound moment for me when she said that. I couldn't believe it. And then she gave me the name and the contacts of the people in Millbrook to contact. She was very outgoing. I said, "Why are you doing this? Why did you do this?" And she said, "We have a thriving Indigenous community in Australia. We've got rich heritage, rich culture, and we want our artifacts back. So how can we say to Canada or other countries, please return the artifacts if we won't return them?" And so that process is underway. And the magic to me was, we have here a young Aboriginal woman from Nova Scotia, from Millbrook Band. And she is negotiating with a young Aboriginal woman in Australia. It's not Australia to Canada or Canada to Australia. It's First Nation to First Nation, 15,000 kilometers apart. So to me, I think that's very meaningful, and I think it's an indication of where we're going as a country and as a globe in respect to Indigenous relations and respect. We've already had an impact with C-391, even though it hasn't passed. Like this, we haven't got this robe back, but we're well on the way of getting it back. I'm optimistic we are going to get it back, as well as the other artifacts with it. But I passed around this article. It's not in either official language. It's in Chinese. But this was picked up in China, this private members bill. I know what it's about because it's got my picture in it. And they spelled my name right, which is the important thing. But that's the impact it's had. We've had calls from Germany. We've had calls from Britain, the U.S., and all over asking about the details of the bill. We had a call from the Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Museums, who represents 52 countries with thousands of museums. And they suggested they may use this bill as a template for other countries who are trying to get their artifacts back, and especially African countries who have seen all of their artifacts or many of their artifacts taken all over the world. And so we've already had an impact. We've had a family call and say, we've got indigenous artifacts, we don't know what to do with them. This bill would provide a place for them to go. This family said, we want the artifacts to go back to the proper people. We want them to go back to the people from where they came. And we don't know what to do. So this bill will help provide that doorway that people can go to if they do have artifacts to return. Yesterday, I received an email from Chief Dean Nelson. It says, I'm the political chief of the Lil'wat people in British Columbia, Canada, Mount Currie, British Columbia. I thank you for your efforts in the introduction of this bill C-31. I am currently pursuing the very same action of repatriation. If there's anything we can do to help strengthen these efforts, please let us know. But we've heard from Indigenous peoples all across the country. And when we started, we just consulted with our local Indigenous community, but since then we've consulted with dozens of museums and Indigenous communities to make sure that we did this right. But we didn't realize what a big thing this might end up being when we first started. It was just to add a voice. That was our goal, just to add a voice. But it seems like around the world, countries are really anxious to have their artifacts repatriated. As a coincidence, I went to the Indigenous Tourism Association meeting last spring. The number one issue to them was repatriation of artifacts for economic purposes, not heritage and culture so much, but as economics, because people who want to come to First Nations are really interested in the history and the heritage, and they want to see the artifacts, they want to see the history. The young people want to see how things were made. They want to see the talent. They want to see the processes that were in place in the 1500s, 1600s, and 1700s. And that's what this artifacts issue is really about. In the U.S., they did it a little differently. They developed the National Task Force on Museums. No, that's not. The Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, which requires confiscation of artifacts. Our bill does not require confiscation. It's if artifacts are available or if they have been obtained through nefarious approaches. The government of Canada has a structure and a policy to help First Nations bring it back. Millbrook is about, it depends on how you count them, but it's about 1,500 to 2,000 people, Millbrook First Nation. They're incredibly innovative and imaginative, and they do a wonderful job, but they're still 1,500 to 2,000 people, and they do not have the resources to take on something like this repatriation of the robe. However, if this bill passes, I hope you'll help us with it. If it passes, then they will have someplace to go to ask for advice on storage, on repatriation, on restoration, and on safekeeping. I'm sure you all heard about the museum in Brazil that burned down to the ground. It was a week or so or 2 weeks ago. A whole lot of Canadian Aboriginal artifacts were lost in that fire. Priceless artifacts that are gone forever and ever and ever because they weren't stored properly. Maybe we can save some future losses if we can have this bill passed and we can get those artifacts back in our own hands and properly stored. Anyway, it's been a thrill to be involved with this. It's been a thrill to talk to Aboriginal peoples all across the country and all around the world on this. And I'm just, it's been very gratifying to me. What started out to be a small thing to just add a voice has turned out to be something really meaningful, and I appreciate your attention on it. And I have to hand it to Heather Stevens, done a great job on this. So Heather, thanks very much, and Joel too as well, a great job on this. And with that, I'm going to finish my remarks. I welcome your interventions and your questions and everything else. But thanks very much.
Thank you. Did Ms. Stevens did you have a presentation that you would like
I
to?
do.
All right.
Yeah. Hello and good afternoon, Madam Chair and community members. My name is Heather Stevens. I'm a Mi'kmaq woman from Millbrook First Nation in Nova Scotia, as Bill had said. I am here before you this afternoon to address on the bill C-391. And in doing so, I'm going to tell you a bit about me and the story behind the bill. I am the operations supervisor at the Millbrook Cultural and Heritage Center, which is located in Millbrook First Nation. Within the center, we have artifacts from our Mi'kmaq people dating back 7,500 years. If you think about that, that's a long time ago. I'm going to go off this just a little bit. we actually have an archaeological dig that's taking place just outside of our location called Mi'kmaq de Burt. In Mi'kmaq de Burt, there's actually artifacts that were uncovered dating back 13,600 years for our people. But mind you, we don't have them in our center yet either. So we're hoping to get those as well. So we are fortunate and honored to have these in our center, the 7,500-year ones. I'm here today to bring light to our struggle and trying to have a priceless piece of our Mi'kmaq cultural history return to its mother country. The Mi'kmaq regalia, which we are now trying to acquire, is being held at the Melbourne Museum in Australia. This regalia dates back to about 1840s. We have a picture of it, as Bill had said, of it in our museum, but the true piece is in the Melbourne Museum, tucked away somewhere. When I first started at the Glooscap Heritage Center in Mi'kmaq Museum, which is now the Millbrook Cultural and Heritage Center, I was a program's assistant. At that time, the picture of this regalia was in the same display case, and I had often wondered why it's just a picture. Why do we have this historical regalia displayed here for our Mi'kmaq, for our people from all over Mi'kmaq, the land of the Mi'kma'ki, sorry. Okay, why don't we have this historical regalia displayed here for our people from all over Mi'kma'ki, which, in our language, is the land of the Mi'kmaq, to see, touch, and experience that part of our history firsthand? The answer that I had received from the previous endeavors in partnership with the Confederacy of Mainland Mi'kmaq and the GHC of trying to require the regalia was, we have tried, but there's too much red tape, and it's just not worth the fight anymore. That had frustrated me so much, but my hands were tied in the position that I had held. So when I eventually was put in my current position, I had made a point to not have only myself speak about the regalia, but the entire staff, to all visitors to our center, in doing so, hoping that eventually someone would listen and help us. That day came at the end of last year, when MP Bill Casey came to the center on a different matter, but I had been chosen to give him a tour of the museum. When we reached that particular display case, I spoke to him about the value of the piece and the struggles that I had gone through, and to no avail. After that point, I saw a light in MP Bill Casey's eyes that I had never seen before. That light was hope. MP Bill Casey, from that point on, has worked with me on moving forward with acquiring this priceless historical Mi'kmaq regalia and have it returned to its rightful place. Over a short period of time, I have made a connection with another First Nations woman of the Warabai Nation, which is employed at the Melbourne Museum. With speaking to her about the regalia, she could relate to the meaning and the want to get it back, home where it belongs. She's so very excited to be a part of having this artifact returned to its rightful place. As of right now, the movement is slow, but I am so optimistic that if this bill passes, we are going to open a door that is going to let other First Nation communities get back the material history that is rightfully theirs and to be able to share that history with others. With sharing this history among the Mi'kmaq people and others, it could uncover direct descendants of that regalia and other historical properties. The feeling is about recognition of wrongdoing and moving forward with a part of reconciliation for First Nation. I, as well as many other First Nation people, feel that this would be a step in the right direction, a step to allow us to reconnect with our past, which was taken from us so long ago. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time, Madam Chair and committee.
Thank you very much for those presentations. We're now going to be going to question and answer. And like I said before, the first round, if you need translation services, because we will have MPs asking questions in French and in English, you have the earpieces in front of you and you can use the controls in front of you. We will be beginning with MP Randy Boissonnault, please.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to MP Casey. You remind us of the important connections and possibilities that come from just being out and about in our own communities. So that's fundamental to being an MP, and so is reconciliation to our government. And so as a non-status adopted Cree person and member of the Indigenous caucus of our government, I fully support your initiative. I think you've been very clever in the drafting of the bill. So tell me collectively, if you could just share with us why a national action plan, comment on any money from Treasury that may or may not come as a result of this bill, and then I'll have follow-up questions.
Well, I think just the experience I had with Millbrook had no place to turn. And I talked to museums, and they talk about repatriation, but in talking to Indigenous communities, they don't provide the help that they need. So the whole goal is to add a voice to actually small Indigenous communities like Millbrook. So they're not all by themselves on this issue or on this endeavor. And but as far as money goes, that's part of the strategy. They adopt a strategy, and if like this regalia, I understand had been given a price of $500,000 or $600,000 worth. If that was the estimated value, we're talking about zero now, because of Bill C-391. We're talking about them returning it for zero, and that's how this organization, that's how this strategy, this national strategy that I'm calling for, could help. And that was one of the barriers they ran into in the beginning. But by adding our voice, and I just say to all members, 2 minutes and 37 seconds in the House of Commons. I mean, that's meaningful. And so that's, I wouldn't restrict, I wouldn't rule out money being made available, but it's not necessary. You know, mostly I'm talking about assistance in communications and transportation, things like that. And strategy, safekeeping is really important. So that's what it's about. Here's a book written by Ruth Phillips. We met with Ruth Phillips. This is Ruth Phillips, and this is almost a Bible of Indigenous artifacts. And the whole story about the travels of this robe is in here, the global travels of a Mi'kmaq coat. And the whole story is here. It's an amazing book. It's just amazing, the research she did. And here, the guy that bought the regalia in 1843 is quoted in this book. And it says, Hugo, his name was Hugo. Hugo was convinced of the inevitable and tragic fate that awaited Aboriginal cultural traditions and ways of life. Alas, poor remnants of a once mighty nation, ye are like the few remaining leaves on a tree from whence their companions have withered. So the person that bought this robe in 1843 wanted to save it. He wanted it saved. He treasured the Mi'kmaq traditions and culture. It's all in this book. It's just an amazing book. She spent 5 years writing this book.
I would like to see the treasures saved as well. So Joel, thanks for your deft drafting. And you've put your finger on something, Bill, because you thought you would give voice to Indigenous peoples, and you've really taken out a megaphone without knowing about it.
I didn't know.
A colleague of mine, Carolyn Campbell, who used to run the continuing education faculty for University of Alberta, is now doing her doctorate at Oxford University on this topic about repatriating. And it speaks to nationalism. It speaks to nationhood. It speaks to, reconciliation efforts around the world. So people are very interested in this theme. And I have a question for Ms. Stevens. What was the conversation like with your counterpart in Melbourne?
With my counterpart in Millbrook.
In Australia.
Oh, Melbourne. Oh, it was amazing. Her name is Genevieve, and Genevieve was over the moon and then back. She just was so supportive. Huh?
It's a good journey for her.
It's a good journey. Yeah, she's so supportive and so understanding. As I had mentioned, she is of First Nations as well, and they're also wanting to repatriate some of their stuff back as well. So it's one of these things that enlightens her in the fact that there is hope. And right now she's on maternity leave, so it's kind of like it's a waiting game for her to return. But she's on board fully.
Well, I will share my thanks with Ambassador Smith as well. And this is propitious because the Royal Alberta Museum, which will be Western Canada's largest museum, is opening its doors October 3rd. And you'll have my full support to see this go through, because I suspect there will be lots of artifacts we'll be wanting to repatriate to Western Canada. So thank you all for your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will now be going to Mr. Shields, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. Probably other than Mr. Casey, I've been in Truro a long time ago and was recently there. 1959 was the first time I was in Truro, so that's probably older than me.
They're still talking about it.
Yeah, right, thank you. I only wished. Anyways, it's great to see how Truro has come back in the sense of economically, and it's good to see how Truro has returned to some of the economics that it used to have. It's interesting to see that. But anyways, to it, and you know I spoke in the House in support of this particular motion. And in my writing, I have a significantly large Indigenous museum in Blackfoot Crossing. But some of the issues, and I spoke at it, and you probably have listened to some of us speak about it, was some of the interest in the sense of repatriation of artifacts. And I think what you provide in a service is excellent. But there is some, how do we strengthen to make sure when these artifacts are collected that they are again used for this? And that's part of the problem that Blackfoot Crossing has. They have a wealth, and some of it has come from the Glenbow Museum, which is one of the largest repositories of Indigenous artifacts in the world, is in Glenbow and Calgary. But as some of that has come back to them, it's not on display. I've been in there and I know some of the things they're displaying, but a lot of things aren't. And that's how do we build this relationship as they return to encourage the display of them. The second part of that is, and when we talk about cost, I think there needs to be, it's not just transportation, but the expertise in our museum sector, which wasn't addressed in a sense because they weren't consulted on this. We need to find a way to support that returning and the storage and the display and safekeeping so that it's not just returning it, but there's a support mechanism through our museum association to strengthen that repository back where they go to. And so I think that needs to be strengthened in a sense of support because we've got a tremendous museum organization with tremendous skills, but it's not being transferred in this piece of legislation that counted for. So I think that's something that we need to do. And lastly, maybe commenting on, is I own a significant piece of art from an Indigenous person who gave it to me. Now, is this something I should be concerned that as holding it personally, that there could be, what is the state of holding Aboriginal art that's significant? Am I at risk now of having requested that back? I mean, that's something that we've got to be careful with here because there's significant Indigenous art out there that is very valuable. So anyways, those are some comments I'd make if you'd like to respond.
I'd like to respond to part of it. First of all, there's nothing in this about confiscation. If you have a legally acquired artifact, like the robe was legally acquired. The man bought it in 1843, and then when he died, he left it to the museum. It was totally legal, no question. And there's nothing in this about confiscation. I think I started to tell you about it in the U.S., and I don't think I finished the story, but they have laws in the U.S. If you are an institution that receives federal money, you must return Indigenous artifacts. We're not doing that. We're asking for cooperation. And if something is either illegally acquired or it's available or somebody wants to return it, like your art, if you decided to return it, this strategy will help facilitate that return. I also agree with you 100% on safe storage and display because in Brazil they didn't have that and they lost those artifacts forever and ever and ever gone, imagine. And so this is part of the strategy. I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. But part of it, there's not, this is open to the strategy, to develop these things as they unfold, as they need it. But you raise good issues. And, amendments are welcome.
And, yeah, we will do them. Yeah.
You stay out of this.
But I think that's the point of strengthening this, and that's what our amendments would be, to strengthen that.
We're open to strengthening it or amending it, and the purpose of it, I'm convinced that this is a much, much more important thing than I thought it was when I started.
And I absolutely agree with you. Like I say, we have an Indigenous, and it's large, but yet when the people come there, they're not seeing it.
No, that's right.
And we want those people to see those things that they have, that the stories that go with them, the traditions with them. I hear the oral stories, and the elders are still telling them, but the artifacts are not part of the story, and they're there, but they're not being. So we want to make sure that that's part of the process.
This one's in Australia. Hopefully it will come. It's in Australia in a closet, we think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I totally do agree with you. There is a struggle with First Nations communities having the ability to properly store and properly tell the story. And it does need to be supported. It does need to be helped. Millbrook is fortunate enough to have that center. where we actually have the right display cases in the right places to store this if we do get it back, this robe. I mean, it has a picture in it right now, but it's set to go for that to come back. But I totally agree with what you're saying, in the fact that the First Nations communities do need support from government in having that ability to store their artifacts properly, and to be able to have them available to tell the history and to tell the stories that are meaningful. I agree with you entirely, and I hope that this helps to do
Without those stories, you lose so much of the meaning and the culture and
that. You
the
absolutely
history.
do. You absolutely do.
And that's what they represent. Like you'd have a picture here.
Yep.
But without those stories and the meaning and the history, we're talking.
It's just a thing.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just an item. No, and I agree with you entirely. And hopefully, when if it does happen, these First Nations communities get the support that they need to have these artifacts or historical things brought back, that the history comes with it. And that history can then be told and shared, and maybe there might be descendants that might be able to help out. Who knows? That story could continue.
And that's the challenge with the Museum Association.
I'm going to have to jump in, and unfortunately, that is all of your time. But thank you for all of that. Et maintenant, nous continuons avec
And now we'll continue with Mr. Nantel. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Casey. First of all, as an MP, and I think for anyone who works on Parliament Hill, it's true that it's good to see this sparkle in your eyes because you're satisfied, and of course it's good to pay attention to these details in our ridings. We can find causes like these ones which deserve particular attention and even national attention. And now we're talking international attention because the Australian museum in question is interested in getting involved. So along those lines, I think, like my colleague Mr. Shields said, there is an ability to welcome these artifacts back into the community. Would you like to explore, because I can't help but thinking about the study. I don't remember if the report was tabled. It was on museums. It was tabled this morning. Well done. On museums and cultural hubs, and that one will be tabled eventually. There's a lot of conversation on the issues and the perils of having an interpretive center or a museum outside of the large centers. Wouldn't it be a good opportunity to have national opportunity when this artifact eventually arrives in the community museum? Is it not an opportunity to create partnerships that could help you financially, and bringing together artifacts and putting them into an exhibit with a call for public support to showcase the items across the country? Is there an opportunity to create more dynamic conditions in small museums?
Between us and other Indigenous communities, there's absolutely a door that can be opened, and to have that, that not so much freedom, but to have that connection and to be able to share that and support that would be. It's beyond words. It would be one of these things that I imagine it would open so many hearts and so many avenues, to have that support and connection. Absolutely.
Because all these items, like you say, without the story, without the backstory behind their objects, and to me, in all we're going through in the last decade, all this prise de conscience, c'est cette réalisation qu'on a fait par rapport aux écoles autochtones et tout ça.
This awareness raising about Aboriginal culture, there's subject matter and reason to speak about your history more than ever. And Mr. Casey, do you feel this way as well?
Well, we want to bring them back from Australia and other countries if we can. But this, like, I live in Nova Scotia, but this is known to Aboriginals in Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland. They know it well. This robe is something they talk about, and it's part of them, part of their culture. And even though Millbrook, if we're successful at repatriating it, will come to Millbrook, it will be shared with the whole Atlantic Canada because it's a Mi'kmaq artifact, and they treasure it. And I don't blame them. But people talk about it. I was at an event on Saturday night with the Native Council of Nova Scotia Aboriginals, and they had dancers there, and they had drummers, and they had performers, all in what is a replica regalia, you know. And with this, they could have more accurate replica regalia. I mean, it was an incredible thing. And I don't know if you have powwows where you live, but we have powwows, and they are absolutely incredible, where they bring back the traditional ceremonies and cultures and dancing and singing and artifacts and artwork. They are incredible. They're just starting, but they are building and building. And Millbrook has one of the most impressive powwows every summer, and it's just amazing. But even this event on Saturday night, it was a dinner, and it was amazing with the dancers and the culture that was available just at this in a hotel. But they if they had the real genuine artifacts, it would be so much better. And they share, you know, this. Like I say, if this particular road comes back to Millbrook, it will be a celebration all over Eastern Canada.
Thank you.
I actually think it would be a celebration through all North America. The Mi'kmaq people not only reside here in the eastern part of Canada, but we reside all over the world. And to have something like that come back home would be, precedent, and it would be amazing to have that.
Thank you.
I thank you very much.
OK, alors on continue avec...
So we're continuing with Ms. Dillon, please.
Before us. I have, how many minutes do I have?
You have up to 7 minutes.
Up to 7 minutes. Okay, perfect.
If it may assist, I don't think that we're going to get time to go to Mr. Hogue. So if he has a question, you may want to include.
Do you want to?
You go ahead.
Perfect. So thank you for coming and testifying before us. Mr. Casey spoke to us about this in our national caucus a few months ago, and we could also see his eyes tear up and light up at the same time, and it was a very proud moment for him. And these are the things we can do as members of Parliament. But I wanted to know, what kind of effect has this had on your community?
Honestly, the effect that's been placed on the community is awe, disbelief. Is this going to really happen? It's one of these things that, if it does happen, it would be so meaningful. And the fact that a lot of the things that we have tried over the years hasn't happened. It's always good intentions, and then it just like shuts the door, and then the intentions are gone.
Right.
But if we were to have something like this happen, it would be, it would mean something to us, and the fact that we're supported in something that means so much to us, and not so much reconciliation. It is reconciliation, but it's also recognizing that, our history has to be back here where it belongs. And sure, it's all over the world and it's there, but it's not shared. It's not back to our people, and not just the Mi'kmaq people, for all First Nation in all of Canada.
So for you, it would be symbolic for all First Nations people, I think, throughout the world, that an artifact that belonged to the originating country is coming back home.
Absolutely, and it just gives all other First Nation people that hope. That hope that maybe what they can do will happen. We set the groundwork here. We open the door for them, and to have that would be.
And Mr. Casey, for you personally, what would this mean?
I'm going to have to start wearing sunglasses. I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm going to celebrate my 30th anniversary of my first election in 2 months. Now, mind you,
Congratulations.
I've been thrown in, thrown out, recycled, changed parties a few times, ran as an independent, but and I've been involved with some wonderful things. I had a private members bill on brain tumor registries, and which really was meaningful. But this is turning out to be more meaningful to me. If you want to know what it means to me, it means a great deal. I cherish our history. I especially cherish the Indigenous history. And we have so much of it where I live, and we're very fortunate to have it. Heather talked about I can't say the Mi'kmaq term, but it's called Debert in English. They've discovered the oldest community in Canada. It's 13,500 years old. It's very close to Millbrook. And I'm hoping that we can make some progress on that before I am not here anymore. And but this is very meaningful. I didn't even realize how meaningful it was until we started to get calls from people, calls from Indigenous people, calls from museums, calls from all over the world. A journalist in Germany called and interviewed me on it. I mean, that never happened to me before, and I doubt that many private members' bills get written not in Chinese, in Chinese, you know. But so I mean, it's turned out to be a very profound thing and very meaningful to me, and I'm very grateful for the chance to have this bill and have you listen to it, and hopefully it will pass.
But from what you've said, it will have an impact on the entire world as well from your testimony. This is what I'm gathering. And this is something incredible for Canadians and for Indigenous communities across the world. And what would you do to tell other people? This is for Mrs. Stevens or Mr. Casey. What would you do to encourage other countries or communities to give back the items and ask back for those that belong to the Indigenous communities?
Yeah, I think what I would do is just relate. You know, everybody has a history. Everybody has something that they connect with, and just the connection, the relation that I would have with them, the understanding. Everybody has compassion. Everybody in some way or another understands, you know, that they need, or that they don't need, but it's good to have their history and to have it available for other people to learn and to grow from. That's basically what I would do.
And Mr. Hogue has a question.
I wanted to answer that question if I
thanks.
could. I have a vision of Genevieve, the Aboriginal woman in Australia, coming to Millbrook, presenting the regalia to Heather. That picture will go around the world, because that is Indigenous person to Indigenous person, Indigenous woman to Indigenous woman even. And if we do get this approved, we can repatriate. I'm going to do everything I can to see that happen. I would love Genevieve to bring the regalia here, and I'm sure it will go around the world.
Great. And so we'll go to Mr. Yurdiga now.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, MP Casey. It's a great bill. Glad to see it's coming forward, and I'm get to be part of it, to discuss its its implementation eventually once it passes the House. Just need some clarification. Obviously, many First Nations would love to display it within their communities. But one concern is always coming forward, how we don't have the expertise to maintain them. We don't have the infrastructure or the ability to financially install some of these special, humidity and temperature controls or whatever it may be. I'm not an expert on that side, but I'm sure there's many that can give a ballpark figure, eventually, because they would want help financially from the government because they don't have the means. And it's very important to have these artifacts go back to the communities. They're very excited, happy about the bill. But do you see in a strategy? Is there money attached to it? Whether it's training, infrastructure costs, and even operational costs. I mean, to have these things, there's special care that needs to be done. So can you elaborate a little bit so I have a better understanding? Where do you want this bill to go and how it's going to impact our communities?
I think you can tell I would like it to go a long way, but this calls for that strategy. I'm calling for the strategy that you're calling for. That includes all those things you listed, and the resources, what resources would be necessary, and so on. But we're talking about a lot of different things. We just agreed with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. We're going to adopt that. In there it says we have to take special measures to help the economy of First Nations. This is a special measure. If we can help them establish what you're talking about, facilities with the artifacts on display, that's going to be a huge draw. Everybody is interested in Indigenous history, it seems. I am, for sure, and I know most people are. But they don't have the resources. But, I mean, everything that we're doing, everything we're saying we're going to do points in this direction. We've adopted that. We've agreed to take special measures. And the number one issue on the Indigenous Tourism Association was artifacts. I had no idea that would be it, but I had just tabled my bill 391. I went to this meeting in a meeting in the Center Block, and that was the number one issue. And they didn't know about my bill, but that was their number one issue of restoring their artifacts so that they can put them on display and attract tourists. So that will help pay for it. I mean, it could be a viable business plan. I mean, if they have these artifacts on this display and it's going to cost this much money, it may be a positive economic business plan you can put forward and finance it that way. But I mean, the strategy is to help First Nations like Millbrook figure that out. I'm not calling for a lot of money to be spent on it, but I'm calling for a strategy to help First Nations. I'm for sure there will be cases where it's just not viable. Like if that road was $500,000 or $600,000, and that was the price they put on it 10 or 15 years ago. If they still had that price now, it'd probably be much more. There's no way that we could support that. But by adding a voice, which the House of Commons has done, the House of Commons added a voice, and maybe we're going to get it back for $0. And Millbrook does have a properly built facility that has environmental controls and fire protection and everything else, fortunately. But you're right, a lot of them don't. And that's part of the strategy to help work on that, maybe. But if we recognize the artifacts as a tremendous resource and a tremendous asset, and they are, then maybe these resources will be available to do it, to develop them.
Well, thank you.
How's that for an answer?
The end of your time.
Well, thank you so much for your response.
Thank you.
And we will go to Mr. Hogue for our final questions.
I think the principle that you put forward is to be accepted and understood, given Canadian culture and understanding, and hopefully worldwide, in terms of principle. And as I read through the way you've laid out, it's about providing a forum by which that information can come together, and negotiations in terms of dealing. There's nothing forcing any type of change within it. Given, since you've submitted your legislation and the conversations you've had to date, is there anything in the legislation that you look at that you think you might have changed or might be different, or are you quite satisfied that it's consistent with the principles and values that you've put forward?
The only pushback we've had on it at all is, could it be interpreted that it's confiscation? And it is not, and it never has been meant to be confiscation. And that's the only feedback we've had on it that was opposed to it or questioned. They weren't opposed to it, but they questioned. And if that has to be clarified, we should do it. But there never was an intent to have anybody's artifacts confiscated if they obtained them legally, like this robe. It was obtained 100% legally. The whole story is in this book. It's a whole chapter on that robe is in this book. And it tells exactly where it came from and how it got to where it is. So, I mean, there was never any question about the legality of the ownership of the robe, but now it's available, maybe. But Millbrook can't do this by themselves. So if we have a national strategy, it'll add value to our country if we can help bring it back. But again, in the U.S., they have legislation that does allow governments to confiscate. But in Canada, we don't have that, and I'm not calling for that. That's the only thing.
Well, in fact, I think that certainly the information we have, you talk about looking for resolution. You're not talking about any confiscation or any of that. So I'm not sure where a reader would get that other than just an assumption they would make.
We talked to a lot of museum associations, a lot, I mean dozens. And they talked to the main Canadian Museum Association, and they feel that they could do this too. But when I talk to Indigenous people, they feel that museums are competitors for the artifacts. You know, it's two completely different perspectives. The museums feel they can help, and I believe their sincerity. But when I talk to Indigenous people, they say no, there are competitors for the artifacts. So this is focused on Indigenous peoples, returning the artifacts to them. I don't know, where's Mount Currie in British Columbia?
It's just north of Whistler.
Well, coincidentally, I got an email from a chief there.
You mentioned that. I've been to Mount Currie a few times.
But I mean, I don't know how he heard about it or what, but I mean, this is filtering through everywhere, this whole talk.
So in terms of I'm thinking of the Samiamo First Nation, which I live next door to, and the UBC Museum of Anthropology, which has tremendous Aboriginal artifacts. What would, I guess, because of the mediation or process you're talking, I can see the Samiamo people wanting to get some things back that are owned by the provincial museum and things like that, and I think that's the principle you've talked about is that it should go back to the community from which it came. So any type of central gathering point. So I think there could be some interest in it. So I really like the notion you put into it, and I agree with that principle, but I like the mediation you're saying. We're trying to find a forum by which you might be able to negotiate, discuss that, and put that in place rather than anything further. So I like the way you framed it. I like the way that it comes about, and I certainly like the principle that you're putting forward. So thank you for that.
And I'm not going to tell you, I hope that this starts a conversation with museums and associations or whatever who have Indigenous artifacts that aren't even thinking about repatriation. Maybe some will think about it. Maybe they will. But there's no confiscation, but certainly encouragement to talk about it.
Yeah, well, the Haida people have a number of their artifacts are in New York.
Imagine, imagine the artifacts the Haida people.
For some time, and they've repatriated some of those, but hopefully this will encourage and give the facility and ability for them to do more of that. And
then there was some Haida artifacts in Brazil in the fire, I think, were there not?
I've heard that, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey, Mr. Henderson, Ms. Stevens, for being here today and to start us off on our study of this bill. It looks like we're going to have a lot of interesting discussions and to look into it, and maybe a book to read as well. So thank you very much, and that will bring this session to an end.